This episode on pop pedagogy.
That a lot of the plot of this episode, at least from what I was perceiving, is very, very focused on the teacher interaction.
If you burn yourself out, you're not going to be able to show up for your students, right?
The so familiar struggle that all of us as teachers have struggled with.
The technology doesn't work.
Yeah, she doesn't know how to use the projector. She doesn't know.
Class dismissed.
Remember how scary your first days at school were, so I'd like you to be especially nice to Matilda.
Captain, my captain. Sit down, Mr. Anderson.
Are you going to teach us anything, or are we just going to sit here?
Welcome to Pop Pedagogy.
Hey Nicole, how's it going?
It's going. It's been a week. How about you?
Same, very much same, but with very nice highlights. So, I'm happy. And it's the weekend, and it's the first time that we're recording on a Saturday, I think.
Yeah, we both had pretty busy weeks, so we didn't get to record at our usual time. So, Saturday recording, and we have a very, very interesting show to talk about today.
Word.
But before we get into that, let's do our ritual. Our every time we have to start talking about our snacks because who doesn't snack when they watch movies? But today I just have coffee. That's my snack. It's early.
Same.
Because it's the week. It's actually not early. It's quite late, but it's the weekend.
It's Saturday morning. We're doing our best. Yeah, coffee.
Don't make me spit my snack.
And look at my cup. It says Witch's Brew. My sister got it for me. And it's so cute because it has a little witch there.
Oh, I like it. Mine's my normal. I have a set of these, but this one is broken. So it's the Beauty and the Beast cup.
It has personality.
Yeah. All right. Well, what are we watching today, Melissa?
Okay. So we watched this Korean drama called Black Dog, Life of a Teacher. And it was very engaging. I never watched Korean dramas. I think I watched it once when I was in my 20s and I didn't really get hooked. And now I remembered why, because the pace is so relaxed that the whole episode, I thought that it was in slow motion.
I have watched plenty of dramas, so I can tell you that the pacing on this one, out of all of the ones that I've seen, it's very stoic. It's very realism.
I wonder if that's intentional, right? Because there weren't a lot of cut scene to something else. So yeah, it was cool. Thank you for picking it.
So do you want to tell us what happens?
Yes. So basically the show focuses on this main character who is a new teacher. She's very young. She's entering high school. And this episode in particular is the second episode of the show. And it shows her struggles with the first days of class, interacting with her senior colleagues. This is the first time that she's teaching in this school. There's some mix-ups in the way that she talks about additional tutoring for kids and also her scheduling because she's working for two departments within the school. There's some drama between these departments. And in the end, after I think the episode lasts close to an hour and a half, you see her kind of navigating all of these things and then coming to her own and receiving some support from her superiors and in a way standing up to the senior teacher who was kind of a bully.
She was a bully.
Yeah. And it was very interesting to me also that a lot of the plot of this episode, at least from what I was perceiving, is very, very focused on the teacher interactions. There wasn't much shown about the interactions between teachers and students, but it was a lot of attention on the interpersonal engagement, the admin life, the larger life of a school, but from the teacher lounge sort of settings. That's kind of what I got from what the episode that we watched.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think one thing that was interesting, we just read this before we started the call today, because I was wondering from when we first heard about this show, what does Black Dog have to do with being a teacher? And so apparently in Korean, it has a similar connotation as we would say underdog in English. I guess in Korea, or maybe this is a worldwide phenomenon, I don't know, but Black dogs don't get adopted as much as colored dogs, so they're kind of the underdogs. So I guess it's implying because she's the main character, she's a temporary teacher, which is also something that I had to learn about through watching the show because it wasn't quite clear to me what that meant. It seemed to me that she was a student teacher. They talk about how she hasn't passed her qualification yet, so she's not fully qualified. And I guess in the first episode, which we didn't watch, they talk a little bit about how she's tried to pass the qualification and has failed a bunch of times. So yeah, I was under the impression that it was kind of a student teaching kind of deal, but I think it's a little bit different in South Korea. So that was something interesting to observe, was that dynamic, because I haven't been in a school where I've been in a school where I've been a student teacher,
Right.
but not where there's this I'm a temp, I'm not a temp kind of not necessarily rivalry, but there's some tensions. There's tensions between those two groups.
And there's also a certain hierarchy, right? These expected roles and behaviors between that are different between the temporary teacher, which I interpreted as a contractor teacher or as a beginner teacher, somebody who is not tenured. But yeah, that was something that caught my attention, how evident it was, this kind of hierarchy. And also it was a little shady that you cannot tell the parents or the students if you're a temp or not. That is not discussed. They don't need to know something like that.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
That was a bit strange to me too. I guess maybe parents would be upset if the teachers that they are maybe not going to come back next year. Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about the main conflict with her co-teacher. So she has a co-teacher. The co-teacher's name is, oh my gosh, was it Kim? Kim Ibun. So she suddenly starts getting all these phone calls at her desk, and she doesn't even know who's calling her. It's just, you need to do this. Bye. Hang ups. And then 2 seconds later, call. And also this, and then hangs up. And then come see me right now, and then hangs up. And the girl's, who's that? I'm supposed to go see her. I don't know who. I don't know where. And I was just, what's going on? Okay. And then they tell her, oh, that must be Miss Kim. You need to go to this place and talk to her.
Another teacher's lounge.
Do they tell her that she's the co-teacher? I don't even know if they tell her.
I can't remember, but this is definitely the first interaction that they have, right? There is no previous, nice to meet you. And this is right in, I'm assuming, the first day of school. She's,
it's the first day of school
and everything. So yeah, it was a very abrupt kind of first interaction between two teachers who are supposed to be co-leading curriculum and coordinating classroom instruction.
I would assume that they would have met. There would be pre-service coordination before the first day of school. Because to me, it felt a lot of the stuff that was going wrong was because they didn't do anything before the first day of school.
Yeah, they just kind of
even the
up.
Scheduling, all of that stuff, they're doing it as the kids are coming in instead of the week before or the month before. So that was a bit interesting.
Yeah, and I was wondering if this is just for drama's sake or if it really works that, because normally before you start welcoming the students, teachers will have been working for a month or something to prepare, coordinate, present paperwork, but teachers are in the school for a period before the students arrive, for sure.
Normally. Normally. So maybe it was just for drama, but the articles that we read about the show says that it's depicted as a very realistic experience of how teachers are, the teacher experience in South Korea. So, I mean, if that's how things do, I might suggest coming in the week before.
Yeah, but see, in that relationship, I thought that whole attention to hierarchy was also very evident, right? She's the new teacher. Miss Kim is the senior person who knows how everything runs, and she looks very comfortable in her desk as well. I don't know if because that caught my attention. All of her desk was a lot of her personal objects were there, as opposed to Hanu.
Yeah.
Her desk seemed still very impersonal in a way. And Miss Kim had this big personality sort of about her, and just top down.
And she was I mean, she came across as a bit lazy. She wants to make it as easy as possible, which also you can kind of understand. And even at the end, the head teacher of the academic advisory group she stands up for Hanul, but she also schools her in a way, right? Because she's at the end of the episode, the co-teacher is mad. She keeps calling again and trying to talk to Hanul about doing things her way. And so then the main lady, the head of the academic advisory department, takes the phone and hangs up on her and does that a few times, just hangs up the phone. And then Miss Kim comes down to that office and is ready to throw a fit. And then the academic advisory head is, no, get out or something. And then when she leaves,
on my watch.
yeah, but then when she leaves, she turns to Miss Sko and she isn't entirely wrong, the bully teacher. She was, you have 50 minutes and what you've prepared is too much for that amount of time. And you're going to burn yourself out. And then Miss Go is kind of trying to argue with it. Yeah, but shouldn't we be teaching all of these things? These things are important to know. And it's kind of that balance of if you burn yourself out, you're not going to be able to show up for your students, right? So she's a bit overly ambitious as first year teacher might be.
Yeah, of course, because you come with all of the theory, right?
Right.
And you come with all of these high expectations. And then if the relationship had been different between these two co-teachers, the more senior one would have
Like
been
more
your slides
mentory
and-
type.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, this is fantastic, but realistically, this is the time we have, and these are the things, whatever. But instead, what happened was that the new teacher gave the senior teacher her slides, and then the next time she opened her own slides, she saw all of these corrections and all of these things just crossed out, and that was very, I cannot teach. If there had been a conversation, that would have been easier to deal with, right?
Right. Or if there had been some gentle, I don't know, gentle parenting of
like
the
a
new
mentor.
teacher. But I do quite understand the hierarchy dynamic because I worked in East Asia for quite some time and had to deal with that a little bit especially in Shanghai. When I worked in Shanghai, I was leading. So the school I worked in, there were 3 sections of the school. There was the French section, the Chinese section, and the English section. I was head of the English section, and above me there was they call her the principal, but she was, I would say, a business manager kind of.
Okay.
And then there was what we called the headmistress. And what I was told was that her role was, they gave her an honorary title and an honorary position in the school, right? This is what I was told.
Okay.
Anyway, so headmistress, honorary position, honorary title, wanted to control everything that I was doing as head of the English section. And there were conflicts because my job is to get kids enrolled and wanting to go to this school. And so I have to appeal to them. So I would do things. I put together this summer camp where a lot of these kids were small and they were also homesick. There was one little boy from Tennessee. I can't tell you how homesick that little boy was. So we put together this little summer camp. We did pizza, and there were things that were local, but there were things that were also familiar to people from different parts of the world. And she just was not having it. And she wanted to cancel everything a few days before things were supposed to start. And the parents will want their money back, so we can't do that. And I put my foot down and I was, if you're going to cancel this, I quit now because I'm not taking responsibility for the fallout. And so the principal and the investors were, well, that can't happen. So at the end of the day, they sided with me on that. And after that, headmistress was very nice to me. And then one day she gives me a packet of cookies and she's, oh, these are for you. I would need to have these cookies, right? Okay. So I put them on my desk and I go do the stuff I need to do. I come back later and one of the assistant teachers, one of the Chinese teachers, she goes, Nicole, where did you get these cookies? And I was, oh, headmistress, she gave them to me. And she was, did you eat any of them? I was, no, not yet. And she was, you need to throw them away. They've been expired for 10 years.
I did not imagine that. Damn.
And I was,
do we
the
think
headmistress
that...
is not being nice to me. She's calculating. So
Gosh.
that hierarchy thing is very important because if you mess with somebody that's perceived on the hierarchy higher than you might get
Right.
poisoned.
In the show there's the sequence of these interactions when what you were describing, like, Miss Kim, the senior teacher, comes and to yell at the new teacher, but the director kind of stands in front of them, and the senior teacher is so frustrated, but because she's talking to a senior, she's just, okay, cool, thanks. And then she leaves the office, and then she yells, she screams in the in the hallway. It's just like,
Yeah,
and they're
because
just like,
you
okay,
gotta obey the hierarchy, or you're
right.
apt to be taken out, man.
Damn, yeah. But that was really really cool to watch all of these, all of these admin work, struggle of finding your place, and this very very strict hierarchy. And
Okay,
how
but
it
let's
shaped
talk
the
about the technology in the school too, because we were talking about this like a little bit before we started recording, and we were like, how do they not have the Google Calendar for the schedule?
or some sort of system where it's, these are the courses, these are the teachers available, make up the schedule. And yeah, because a lot of it, there were some scenes where they were looking at the schedules on the paper and using a ruler trying to figure out which space they had empty to, and booking meetings on the spot, and
Yeah.
telling people about meetings via phone call or just word of
Or
mouth. And I was like, this
yeah,
is
and
so
then holding people
efficient.
accountable for there being overbooking, because one of the main conflicts that
Right.
happens is that the main character, Miss Go, she's working for two different departments. She's working for, I think it's third year department.
Yeah,
She's
like the
working
third year
for
high school. Yeah.
yeah, she's working for third year department, and then she's working for the academic advisory department, and that's her main department. That's where her desk is. So while she's sitting in the office of the academic advisory department, we all have third hour free. So that's when we'll out loud, not on a schedule, not in an email, out loud, just out loud to the room. We're all free third hour. So let's have our meeting that time. And to me, the way that she said it also didn't seem confirmed. It was, maybe we're all free. Let's have our meeting that time.
Yeah.
Okay. So then Miss Go gets a phone call, and the guy's third year is having our meeting now. Why aren't you here?
Yeah,
You're
now.
kind of, right now. You're going to be late. You better get here now. So she's like, oh shit. And she runs over there. And then the whole academic advisory crew are, where's Miss Go? We can't have our meeting without her. We might as well just sit here and complain about it.
And I think those meetings with the department heads were in preparation for another meeting that the department heads were having that same day with the rest of the school leadership, right? And that's where we learn that there is drama also between her two bosses, the third year leader and the academic advisor leader. But yeah, it was very strange.
They really insult each other in that meeting.
They yell. Yeah, I wrote it down. There was so much drama, and it looked like historical drama, because I guess the headmaster or whoever was running this meeting was, you cannot do this again. Last time, we're not gonna go into this little conflict. Which schools are dramatic, man. Yeah, there's beef. There's historical beef. There's a lot of just people managing that needs to take place there, which happens on top of or behind all of the other things that you're responsible for, right?
It's
Which
like
is, I guess,
competing
it
for
happens in every
resources,
job,
right? Yeah, it happens in jobs where there's a perceived scarcity of resources, right?
Right.
It's all major conflicts. What's the perceived scarcity of resources, and how are we distributing them?
I also got the impression that because she was late on top of all of those two meetings, she was late to teach her class. I got the impression that maybe she also wasn't familiar with the timetable when a period started and finished, because she was just very surprised about the time that things were happening.
The whole episode, I was just, they did not prepare this girl to be in the first day of school. How did no one walk her through the school? Be like, this is where your classes are going to be. This is when first period starts. This is when it ends. I was so stressed out for her that whole episode. As a teacher, she has two bosses. Neither of them felt they wanted to tell her how the school works.
No. And when she shows up to her classroom, the so familiar struggle that all of us as teachers have struggled with.
The
She's
technology
like,
doesn't work.
yeah, she doesn't know how to use the projector. She doesn't know how to things get turned on, connected. The students help her. Then another colleague shows up to help her, and then she opens the laptop and she's this other bitch, this other colleague just completely destroyed my slide deck. I cannot teach. Let's do something else. And then her period is over, right? Her class period is over. And yeah, it was just,
She's just so unprepared. And I feel, and maybe that's why she hasn't passed her qualification. I don't know. I don't know what you need to do to pass your qualification. But if it were me, what I would want to be able to do is have a backup plan if my technology never works the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Have a backup plan. You have a whiteboard. You have what you want to teach them.
We're assuming that this is the first class, but when things go that when things go away, you could take a pause and use that time to get to know your students. You don't know. Like you could come up with other activities. But it reminds me of when I was in studying to be a teacher. A couple of our teachers were always stressing on that point. Yes, you show up into your classroom with your lesson plan. Yes, you time everything, but you don't really know how things are going to go. So come prepared to change plans, right? To improvise. And maybe if you are not good at improvising, always have a couple of activities in the back of your head, in your backpack, in your toolbox.
Yeah.
That you can just shoot. The electricity went out. Let me try this one. Or they already knew everything. So let's try this game or adapt these kind of activities and dynamics to this new context, right? Because it is unpredictable at the end.
The fact that she doesn't try to get to know the students at all, she doesn't have a baseline of what they can already do or what they already know. She's making a lot of assumptions on the first day of that. This PowerPoint full of, I don't know, complicated grammatical structures is going to be the best fit for these particular students. And she's very confident in that. And she gets really mad about the other teacher wanting to slash some of those things without any personal reflection on. I feel like she's fixated on the interpersonal dynamic rather than on the actual instruction, what the instruction should look. And it's kind of a black or white thing. It's Miss Kim wants to cut these because she's selfish and lazy. I don't want to cut them because I care about my students and I want them to learn and get into college. And there's no reflection on what do the students actually need. Can they do this much? Is this whole PowerPoint the right way to teach? They don't have any kind of conversation about any of that. It's just, I don't want to do it. I want to do it. End of discussion.
That's true. And that also reminds me of that other plot or arc in the episode about this tension between this focus on the scores, right? On the test scores and going into uni. And I wonder how these assumptions or these kind of approach that she has at this beginning of the season changes and evolves throughout the
that
show,
would be interesting to see.
Because there's this interaction, there's this scene also in this episode where they are talking to a mom who wants to enroll, I'm assuming her kids, into this extracurricular academy. And she's, that makes sense because you prepare the kid, it helps the kids study extra to go into university. That is the sole purpose of these academies. They train you so you get a good score in your entrance test for the university. And the advisor is, don't do that. Don't encourage that, because kids can learn very well here in high school, but it's not appealing because the other thing that you have to pay extra for, that is more, it has a little bit of a pull among parents, but they are head of the department is very discouraging about that and showing all of this data to the mom about how her kid can do just fine here. What do you think of that?
I think you're right to call out the kind of severe focus on the testing, what's going to be on the test and teaching to the test. I think that's why she has this PowerPoint with all of these bullets, and that's all there is. I think they're really teaching memorization so that they can take a test at the end. Yeah, I think it's such an education system I'm not so familiar with or at all familiar with. So it's hard to say how whatever they're doing fits in with the context of what they're asked to do in the system and how that affects learning outcomes in the students. I don't think I would want to go to that school.
Well, I was thinking how that whole contrast between the academy and the high school also reminded me of something that happens here in Peru, where once you reach your last 2 years of high school and you start realizing, oh shoot, I have to take the entrance test to the universities, especially for public universities. Those are super competitive because not only public universities are free, but they also, in the majority of cases, tend to have really high quality standards. And so when you're ending high school, if your parents have the money, they will invest in signing you up for, they're called preparatory academies. So you go to high school, you go to your school in the morning, have lunch, and then maybe between 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. you go to the preparatory academy, or at least a couple of hours every single day. Or you get into the intensive cycles, and it's Saturdays and Sundays, or your whole summer break. It can be quite intense, that. And what they do, because I went to one for a couple of months after I was done with high school, because I was supposed to apply to law school. That was like
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no. But I went to this preparatory academy, and yeah, they teach you stuff that is to come on the entrance exam to the university. And those entrance exams quiz you about everything. Yeah. Language, history, geography, math, geometry, just everything. And it's one entrance exam that is a standard for everybody on that day. And then according to how you do on your scoring, then you can enter into whatever career. And you have to choose from the beginning. Oh, I'm going to be a doctor when you're 16. And you apply to the entrance exam. And if you get this top score, then you get a spot in the faculty of medicine.
Interesting.
And that cost a lot of used to cause a lot of tension from when I experienced it, because yeah, kids, you would come to high school, to your school in the morning, go to the prep academy in the afternoon or evening, maybe not do your homework for school, or maybe show up the next day and you're super tired. And also you have access to another social circle, so maybe your social life starts becoming more active. There was this constant tension about, yes, you want to be as prepared as you can to get a good shot at the entrance exam, but also how much is too much, right? And what is the priority? So some parents decided not to send their kids to the prep academy while they were still in high school. They would do it the next summer and do super intensive cycles. And some other parents would do it, have their kids do it in parallel. So that's kind of what it reminded me of.
I feel that the school system depicted in this series is first of all, very centralized, because you have so much focus on this one exam, and everybody is caring about it kind of equally. Maybe they have different ways of going about it, but that's the final goal, right? Is pass this exam, get into uni. And I think there's a balance between the two. And I think there's merit to centralizing some elements of the education system. There are some countries where it makes sense for more decentralization, but then the centralized decision making maybe comes from this state or the region. Indonesia is so geographically diverse and culturally diverse and resource wise diverse that to have it centralized would cause more problems than solve them. But at the same time, having a shared curriculum, so if I move from here to here, I'm not doing something completely different at the end of the day, I think it's useful. And I think that's kind of what we see in this school.
It's interesting because it also made me think about that. How do you balance the fact that schools should be a place where people can thrive, little kids, teenagers can thrive and come to the full of their potential and come to the full awareness and power into what being a citizen is, a citizen of the world, being a human with a future and responsibilities and all of that. And at the same time, elementary, primary, high school are part of a larger system that kind of pushes you to this path of formal education, to the sequence of you finish high school, you enter into college, you get a degree, you get a job, right? And there's this very, very fixated kind of pathway. And so teachers, of course, as a teacher, you want to have this living experience of learning be something that in itself has value, but also at the same time, it is a very real thing that these kids have to go and do tests, and they have to go and achieve these milestones and enter into these other institutions. So I can see how that is very, very tricky to balance. And it was really interesting to see this reflected in South Korea and find so many parallels to what happens here in Peru as well. And I can imagine in so many other places around the world, right?
Okay, well, what if you had top 3 takeaways from this episode, what would they be?
Well, teachers need support and structure to thrive in new environments, new school environments. Yeah, I think that one, because I feel a lot of what happened and all of the drama and the interesting things of this episode came down to that. It felt she was just thrown into the stage without very clear direction or support. And because she was in this position of a temp, it didn't seem that she had many equally footed peers around her that could help her elevate, but instead she was trying to catch up or subordinate to all of these. And yeah, it was just a weird situation.
It was also really afraid to ask too, right? Because there were people that offered her to help her in the very beginning. The first teacher who told her, we don't talk about these things, and even towards the end, even when the guy, the cute guy that's on TV, I don't know his name, the kind of cute guy who's on TV, he says, I'll help you, and and then I had Miss Kim as my co-teacher last year, and then she's kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I can ask him something. She doesn't want to ask because she doesn't want to look, she doesn't know. So instead of asking, she just struggles. So, I mean, I would say what you said, and then also I think being okay to ask questions if you don't know, having a beginner mindset, forget what other people think. I want to do a good job, and that means I might have to look like an idiot for a few weeks while I ask questions.
Yeah. Cool.
Well, I hope. What are we watching next time, Melissa? Is it something funnier, please?
No, not at all. We're watching a classic. It's the Poet Society.
Okay. But I think there's moments in that movie, right? I don't know. Okay.
I can't remember. I don't remember watching it in full, and it was mostly when I was a teenager, I think.
But it's more inspiring, right? Because to me, this show, I don't feel like I can watch the rest of it. It's so heavy.
Of Black Dog, I'm curious to see how her character grows.
Yeah, I feel like it was stressful to watch.
I would probably put it on 1.5 speed.
They could add a few more humorous scenes. I feel the only funniest scene was when Miss Kim goes out into the hallway.
Yeah,
that was it. That was the only funny scene in the whole episode. I feel like they need to add either more romance or more funny to make it more.
I think the romance is coming between the.
I read some reviews though about the whole show, and they said it's not very romantic. So I feel there's some foundation for romance because there's a cute teacher and he's offering to help her. But from the reviews that I read, there's not. Main complaint of the series was that they could have some more romantic elements. So just saying, we want some escapism. Okay, so that's this episode. And obviously we were very curious, and this episode sparked a lot of thoughts for us because we could probably keep going for a long time. And next time we're watching Dead Poet Society, it's kind of the template for inspiring teacher movies. Okay, well, thanks listeners for tuning in. If you want to watch The Black Dog, you can find bad subtitles on YouTube. You can find slightly less bad subtitles on Roku. And if you find better subtitles anywhere, let us know.
Yes, please.
We're interested in understanding things a bit better. All right, thanks, Melissa. See you next time. Nicole.